Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn ain't.
No one inside the MotoGP paddock expected silence to be this loud. Misano was closed, the media was gone, and the track felt like a vast, empty arena waiting for something restless to breathe inside it. Yet beneath that stillness, Yamaha had gathered its most trusted engineers for a test that many inside the sport whispered would decide the future of their long-awaited V4 project. And when Toprak Razgatlıoğlu stepped into the garage, wearing a calm expression that barely hid the storm he had carried for years, a sense of anticipation washed across the team. Because if the rumors were true, if the V4 could finally withstand the violence of his braking, then this test would mark more than a breakthrough. It would mark a rebirth. But what unfolded next went far beyond technical progress. It became the emotional turning point of a rider who had spent his entire life defying gravity, expectations, and the weight of his own past. Misano had never felt so secretive. Entire sections of the paddock were sealed off. Only key personnel were allowed to cross the boundary. Even some Yamaha employees weren't permitted inside. A handful of Japanese engineers hovered over laptops glowing in the dim garage light, their faces tense, their breaths quiet, as if any unnecessary noise might disrupt what was about to begin. This was no ordinary test. Reports suggested Yamaha wasn't looking for speed, pace, or setup direction. They wanted to know one thing: could the V4 survive? Aragon had exposed component fatigue. Valencia revealed vibration issues. Both tests left Yamaha unsure whether their radical new approach could survive a real race distance. And then there was Toprak, a rider known for bending motorcycles to his will, forcing them into physics they were never designed to obey. He was the ultimate stress test, the one rider capable of exposing weaknesses no computer model could simulate. Insiders whispered that the pressure inside the garage felt heavier than usual, not because of the bike, because of him, because of the expectations that followed him from one paddock to another, because of everything he had been through since leaving Yamaha's World SBK project behind. Yet, as he prepared to roll out, the only sound was Yamaha's V4 rumbling quietly behind him, deeper, stronger, more assertive than the inline four that defined their identity for decades. But what the team didn't know was that the true revelation wouldn't come from the engine. It would come from the man riding it. Toprak's journey didn't begin with race simulations or factory garages. It started in Turkey, on roads where his future seemed impossible. His earliest days were shaped by loss, hardship, and the guidance of Kenan Sofuoglu, who saw potential in a young boy others underestimated. From the start, Toprak didn't ride like the others. He attacked corners with a boldness that seemed reckless until he proved it wasn't. He braked later, leaned deeper, and refused to settle for any riding style that didn't feel like an extension of who he was. That raw identity turned him into World SBK's most electrifying force, a rider who made the impossible look casual. But even legends hit roadblocks. During his time with BMW, the challenges mounted. The bike was unpredictable. Grip came and went like shifting sand. There were moments when he wrestled it almost on instinct, disguising flaws with sheer talent. Behind the scenes, whispers emerged of internal disagreements, uncertain development direction, and a rider carrying more strain than what appeared on the surface. Leaving Yamaha had been emotional. Returning for private testing, even unofficially, was something far deeper. Those who knew him best said Toprak carried a quiet hunger into Misano. Not to prove he was fast, everyone already knew that, but to prove he still belonged in a fight that MotoGP had quietly assumed he would never fully enter. And what awaited him on the other side of pit lane would force him to confront questions he had long avoided. The V4 was more than an engine. It was a political gamble. Some inside Yamaha's hierarchy still believed they could refine the traditional inline four and stay competitive. Others insisted the future belonged to a completely new architecture, one capable of rivaling Ducati and KTM. This internal rift had slowed development for years. Resources were split, ideas clashed, decisions dragged. But the 2025 season forced Yamaha's hand. Their rivals were advancing too quickly. Their previous platform had reached its limit. The V4 wasn't a luxury anymore, it was survival. Bringing Toprak into the project wasn't universally agreed upon either. Some engineers doubted that his extreme braking style was representative of what most riders needed. Others believed it was exactly the pressure test the V4 had to endure. In the middle of those contrasting opinions stood Toprak, unaware of how much weight the garage placed on his first laps. But the moment he tightened his gloves and nodded toward the crew chief, the chatter disappeared. All eyes focused on one rider and one engine, and for a moment, everyone held their breath. What happened next wasn't just about performance, it was about rewriting expectations. As Toprak left the pits, the V4's deeper tone rolled across Misano's empty grandstands. The opening laps were calm, predictable, consistent. But then he began to push. He braked later, he forced the rear to lift higher. He loaded the front with stress levels that had previously triggered warnings in Yamaha's data logs. The telemetry told a story the engineers were almost afraid to believe. Temperature stable, power retention strong, vibration drastically reduced. During a 28-lap simulation, the V4 didn't show the fatigue that plagued earlier prototypes. Instead, the numbers climbed into territory some analysts thought Yamaha wouldn't reach until mid-season, if at all. Watching from the pit wall, a Japanese engineer raised his eyebrow for the first time in hours. Another quietly nodded. These tiny reactions meant more than words. They were the subtle signs of hope creeping into a team that had spent years living with doubt. But the most dramatic moment came not from the data, it came from Toprak himself. He rolled into the garage, removed his helmet, and for a brief second, the crew saw something they didn't expect, a smile. Not arrogant, not triumphant, but relieved, as if something long buried had suddenly resurfaced, and he hadn't even said a word yet. Once the engineers finished their initial inspection, Fabio Quartararo took over. His style is smoother, more rhythm-based, measuring the bike's consistency across long distances. His calm approach contrasted sharply with Toprak's violent precision. If the V4 could handle both extremes, Yamaha would finally have a platform for multiple riders, a key milestone their previous machine had failed to deliver. Throughout Fabio's run, telemetry remained stable. Fuel consumption improved despite increased power. Gearbox performance was smoother. The drop in pace during the final laps was minimal, the kind of consistency Yamaha hadn't seen in years. According to internal chatter, Fabio made a quiet remark when he returned. "This one feels alive, really alive." The smile he exchanged with the engineers said more than the comment itself. And in the next minutes, a new realization began to form inside the garage. Toprak's data hadn't broken the V4. It had pushed the engineers towards something they had been chasing for years. But Yamaha wasn't finished. Another rider had been invited to Misano, and his presence would transform the entire project. Jack Miller stepping into the garage was a shock to insiders. His late braking, rear sliding, aggressive corner exit style made him the perfect contrast to both Fabio and Toprak. Yamaha needed to know whether their aero package and engine behavior worked across all extremes. For the first time, Toprak and Miller shared the track during the same session. Lap after lap, they began studying each other, unintentional yet deeply revealing. Miller tried to understand how Toprak braked so violently without losing control. Toprak watched Miller maximize corner exit using slide control few riders could match. The engineers were glued to their screens. The aero package, a thinner, longer front wing, and revised side fairings needed validation. If it only worked for one riding style, Yamaha risked repeating old mistakes. But the telemetry didn't divide the riders, it connected them. For the first time in a long time, Yamaha had built something adaptable, something not shaped around limitations, but potential. And then came Jorge Lorenzo's comment, a message that spread through the paddock like wildfire. If this aero can make both of them fast, Yamaha isn't far from a winning package. Inside the garage, those words hit differently. They weren't just praise, they were a challenge. When Yamaha overlaid the telemetry from Toprak and Miller, something unexpected emerged. Despite their opposing techniques, the V4 responded consistently. The aero package created enough stability for Toprak's beat braking while still giving Miller the agility he needed for corner exit. It was the first time in years Yamaha had found genuine versatility. Insiders said it felt like a weight lifting off the engineer's shoulders. The V4 wasn't just surviving their riders, it was evolving with them. Rumors began circulating instantly. Is Yamaha shaping the bike around Toprak? Is this the return they've been trying to build quietly? Is this why the test was so secretive? Officially, Yamaha said nothing. Unofficially, the paddock believed everything. But the true emotional moment wasn't in the data. It unfolded in silence after the engines shut down. Once the track went silent and the engineers began packing up their equipment, Toprak slipped out of the garage and stood alone at the edge of pit lane. The sun was setting, washing Misano in soft orange light. He stared at the V4 as if seeing a memory brought back to life. Insiders said he stayed there for several minutes, not speaking, not moving, just looking. Because for the first time in years, the machine beneath him didn't feel like something he needed to drag toward performance. It felt like a partner, a platform with room for his chaos, his talent, his identity. Engineers later recalled that Toprak said quietly, this one has a soul." Those words struck everyone in the room, not because of what he said, but because of what it meant. Toprak wasn't just giving Yamaha feedback, he was reconnecting with a part of himself he thought he had distanced from for good. The paddock soon filled with whispers. Is this the beginning of Toprak's MotoGP chapter? Is Yamaha preparing a future built around him? No confirmation yet, but the feeling has changed. Whether rumors were true or not, the emotional weight was undeniable. A rider who once walked away now felt a door opening again, quietly, unexpectedly, meaningfully. As the final lights shut off inside the garage, one thing became clear. Misano 2025 wasn't simply a durability test. It was the moment Yamaha rediscovered its belief, and the moment Toprak rediscovered his spark. The V4 project had taken years of doubt, setbacks, internal tension, and technical failures. But on that silent evening, something stronger than horsepower emerged: hope. And though no one said it aloud, everyone, from the engineers to the project leaders, felt the same strange certainty. This wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning of a new era Yamaha never expected to write.